We're talking with clinical psychologist Dr. Cynthia Post. Summer family travel. It's vacation season, and although gas prices are at record highs, many families will still try to travel and take road trips. And vacations are generally fun, but there are a few challenges. So, what are some of the issues that are important to consider when talking multi-generational summer vacation trips?
Expectations, 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 and communication, Bernie. This is so important. When people start out trying to plan trips, perhaps with their adult children and their grandchildren, everybody wants the very best. But how to just make sure that you're really considering everyone and their feelings and their needs is very, very important. Because when you're talking about people at different levels, you do need to consider that there could be really big differences in what's going to work for everyone involved, how people feel, what their priorities are. And the older generation needs to really be prepared not to get their feelings hurt when things aren't maybe so centered around them anymore. I mean, that's one of the challenges in the multi-family, multi-generation trip, is that the older generation is really needing to pivot to the younger generation now. And some families do better than others with that. In fact, I see plenty of families where I'm dealing with adult children and their parents because we're trying to negotiate this shift to being all adults now and how to have a mutually respectful adult-child relationship. And then those things can come up on trips as well, those kind of differences. And that can lead to some friction if it's not handled well and planned for in advance.
So there's a lot of, we're talking multi-generational there, but narrowing down a little bit, how should couples participating in larger family trips plan for those trips in terms of protecting the couple's relationship?
Well, that is an excellent question, Bernie. The way that I think about it is, all roads start with the couple at all levels of this. So whether you're talking about a nuclear family trip with the parents and the children, or whether we're talking about the parents, the children, the grandparents, whatever we're talking about, the couples need to get together about how they're going to manage that. That would be true with vacations. That would be true with holidays, all these things. Everybody needs to get together and make their plans and communicate as clearly as possible about how to do things in the very best way.
And we're also, when we talk about couples, we also talk about step families, second marriages, third marriages, and blending all the different families. So in terms of step families, what should be considered in that situation with regard to family summer travel?
Right. So again, another issue around expectations, different family, maybe, habits on holiday together that may or may not be understood by the different branches, making room for what the different branches of this step family might need. So that by step family, we mean that these parents were married to someone else, and now there's a new family with a step parent that's not your parent. And so, you might want to take your walk with your mom or your dad on the beach that doesn't include your step parent. You might want to just have that time to yourself with that person, and that there could be room for those kinds of experiences. That part feels really important.
Yeah. And what about different ages? It's like two branches to that question. One, following up what you just said about step families, it's like maybe there's an age where, well, we always did this, and someone younger, well, we always did this. Part A, and part B being just how do you engage people of different kids, especially of different ages, on a road trip?
Right. It's not easy. And so the whole family needs to come together and make plans like, hey, you know what? We got a lot of different opinions here. And this is really exciting and fun. And, this is a great opportunity for us while we're away on vacation to practice how to work together as a team here and think about how can everybody get something that they want on this trip, and to kind of make part of the fun of the travel, anticipating the travel and thinking about, okay, so you really want to go to the amusement park, and you, little child, really want to go to the petting zoo, right? So those are two very different things. And the teenagers now rolling their eyes at the petting zoo concept, and it's like, yeah, you know what? We're going to find a way to make room for everyone, and everyone's going to give a little and get a little. And that this is part of what it means to negotiate in relationships. And these things aren't just important for the moment, but they're important, really, life skills about how to negotiate in all kinds of relationships. I mean, everything we're talking about right now, Bernie, is about the necessary and important pieces of negotiation and compromise that comes with being in relationships with other people of all different sorts. In-laws, um, stepchildren, siblings of different ages, couples who have different interests potentially. Then even within the couple, back to that for a moment, the couple, they might want time apart. They might not want to be together 24/7. And let's not forget that concept in everything I'm saying. That, time apart is a good thing on a trip, because it isn't normal for people to spend all their time on a trip together. And if they do, it probably isn't going to be that comfortable the whole time, because people need some downtime sometimes to just kind of take a breath. In daily life, we don't see parents and children together all the time, or the couple together all the time. People are separated from each other, and they have their time to kind of be on their own and kind of connect with themselves a bit. And trips can be a lovely opportunity for that as well.
I'm thinking of something else too in terms of trips. This is kind of a popular thing. With adult couples that may take trips. I'm thinking beach houses, at the Outer Banks or Ocean
Sure.
City or somewhere. And it's like that can be a challenge navigating that too, right? How do you go about that?
Well, so you've got a bunch of different couples all living in the same home. You have a lot of different things to negotiate, including, even depending on how many bathrooms there are, who's going to get what bedroom, how to manage food in the kitchen, how to manage meals, when you want to spend time together, when you want to spend time apart, as couples, all together, as the couples separately. The more you talk about all that stuff, the better it's going to go. And even though you talk about it, there's still going to be things that come up that may not go well. And what will you do when that happens? How can you kind of handle that in the very best way? And my answer to that would be directly and clearly. Wow, is everything okay? It looked like something didn't go very well just there. Let's talk about it. Or, oh, I'm sorry. Did I did I join you at the stove at the wrong time? Were you not quite finished? I can wait a minute. Try to raise the volume. I don't mean by that yelling. I mean to raise the volume of what's going on in your mind, so that people are having open, direct conversations. A lot of times, in so many of the things we're talking about today, Bernie, people don't want to be honest and direct about what they're really feeling. And so this can lead, when things go underground, when things become subterranean, that's when problems ensue, because people draw their own conclusions. And a lot of times, what I also find is that people enact their feelings, meaning they show they're upset, but they don't talk about how they're feeling. So they sound irritated, but they don't talk about, I'm feeling kind of frustrated right now because blah, blah, blah. They just start sounding irritated. And then you have to figure out what's going on. That already makes for more problems. It's great when people can just be direct and clear and say, I think we got a little bit off track here. Can we take a moment and just take a look at what happened? People think that's only stuff you do in the therapy room, but people did it more in their lives, there'd be less need for therapy, honestly.
Yeah. So, what's the best way to support elderly people, especially those alone or single family members?
Notice them, include them. Don't forget that they want to be able to get out there and do something fun as well. And I think that it's really hard because they do get ignored, and everybody wants to go have their own time, and nobody means harm. I don't think it's just a matter of not really thinking about it, or wanting to have time to themselves. Now, that I can't say that's true with everyone. Plenty of people do think of their elderly relatives that are alone and do sort of systematically include them. And when that happens, that's lovely. But I guess I'm just putting a shout out to everyone to say, hey, include your single relatives. Hey, include your elderly relatives, because they're lonely and they want to enjoy the family as well. And it's so nice to not feel like you're being othered by virtue of just the fact that you're alone. They're alone much of the time anyway. And so by including them, you give them a little relief from that, and it makes them feel really cared about, and it means a lot.
Well, we've covered a lot of territory here, and things that are very, very different, but on our minds at the moment. Final thoughts about how we started with the mass shootings. Any final thoughts about that topic that we covered?
I think what comes to my mind, Bernie, is that everybody's been through so much these last few years, and just make room for each other, be kind to each other, try to um, assume the best and not the worst about people. When people seem more reactive or having less patience or just a bit more edgy or intolerant, just try to make a little more room for people. Try to understand the best that you can, that there's just so much that everybody's carrying. I mean, I think that's something I just see more and more as I talk to people about all that they've experienced this year. So many different versions of so many challenges these last few years. And this is just one more example of it. And, the number of people and the ways they're affected. I mean, one day, not too long ago, there was a something that happened at a school in the district here, and somebody that I know who was just driving someone to the school, they got grazed by a bullet. I mean, it's just
Mm.
the number of people included in this and how they're affected and the dramatic impact on their lives and the amount of time it takes to recover is enormous. And so that's why leading with kindness is so important in our world today.
And then in terms of families, summer vacations, and surviving them, a topic you and I have talked about a lot. Any
Yes, we have.
any final thoughts on that?
Well, to try to remember what's really important on these holidays, when you're with your adult children or you're with your grandchildren, often it's precious little time you have with them. So really embrace it and make the most of it and try to figure out what can we do to really make this a special, memorable, positive experience, because we only get so many of them, right, Bernie? We
Right.
really need to embrace and celebrate what's good. It's such a special opportunity. Make it all that it can be.
Yeah, good. And unlike most of our conversations, we actually have a few minutes to go that we normally don't have. So I was just thinking something you mentioned about how just the challenging our lives have been in the last couple of years. Things seem to be getting back to normal. Are you seeing that in people that you talk with, or in your practice, or are there still some challenges to overcome?
Well, I think there's the backlash after COVID. I think people are really confused about how to move forward because, as we know, while the mask mandates are lifted, COVID is not gone. And in fact, there's a new variant out, and there seems to be, still concern about that. And so, how to move forward is still a concern, and there are different attitudes about how to engage with other people, what kinds of things are okay to do. And these differences in attitudes can be problematic in engaging with other people. So again, I just keep saying to everyone, wide berth for different opinions. And this doesn't need to be a divisive topic. This needs to be something where everybody's feelings are respected. And we might not agree on these attitudes, especially now that rules have been taken off and it's left up to the individual. Like there might be events where somebody doesn't feel comfortable going at all. Somebody else feels like it's no big deal. And it can be easy for people to kind of get into it about these kinds of different perspectives. So I'm just trying to encourage people to not get caught there.
Yeah, great. All right. Clinical psychologist Dr. Cynthia Post, thanks for your insight as always.
Thank you, Bernie. It's always been such a pleasure to talk with you on these shows.
And if someone wants more information, where should they go?
CynthiaPostPhD.com.